It was a normal day in Crystal Empire. Miss Mane were working on her crystal garden near the palace. For about for the past few months after she had came back from the limbo, she had adapted quite well to the new modern world. At first, like many of her friends, she wonders would she had any place in the modern era. But she did find her place in this modern world. Along with Flash Magnus, Rockruff, and many others of her friends, they were among the first to find a place to be. At first, she remained in Canterlot only for about couple of weeks after she came back, and after that, they had defeated Pond of Shadows. Even then, she were still curious what she was going to do now. Her home was not the same since all her friends and family were long gone. But there was only one of her friends who were quickly adapted to the modern world. That was Mage Medenbrook. She had quickly she quickly adapted to the new modern era. Even when Rockhoof still hadn't felt comfortable or home in the new modern era, Miss Main tried to comfort him about this. But after about nearly 4 months after she had come back and that she had settled down in the Crystal Empire, because she didn't know where to go since all her friends and family were all long gone. And when after she heard about the Crystal Empire had returned, and she went there, and she found it so beautiful. And even then, Shining Armor and Cadence had given her a place to stay in the palace. Even there, she had no idea what to do. She felt more home in the Crystal Empire than she ever had in a long time. But it was there she found her purpose to be the landscape architect of the Crystal Empire. But about almost a year after she came back, she was studying some magic spells with sunbursts in a library. Maybe it was mostly some ancient spells that she had learned from her youth. But while studying a spell, Miss Lane tried to use the spell, but something did happen. There was a big flash of light, but when both Sunburst and Mistmane could see again, the result were something they didn't expect. This spell somehow had restored Mistmane's youth again. She was very surprised to see that she was back in her early years of young again. Even Cadence, Shining Armor, were really surprised, and they kept this a secret for from the royal family and including her friends. But one day when they came for a visit, they all were surprised, even Saltwood, since he was the most magical skill of all of them. And even Stygian, he has never heard of anything like this before. Even Stygian then, with Staltwood, read a lot of books in the library almost entire night to find any reason why this happened. But they couldn't find it. After reading almost entire library in the palace and the city's library, but they couldn't find any solution. So they then asked Celestia and Luna. They even went to the restricted area of the library in Canterlot, but even there they couldn't find any particular reason why, or at least how, the process even worked. But Miss Main, though, wasn't scared. She was just happy to be young again. But she realized. But then some birds had mentioned this. But how long will this effect last? That kept made her worried. What if this effect on her was only temporary? Maybe for maybe a short time, and then she returned back to herself, and maybe this process couldn't be re-happened again. But after nearly about 5 months after this that thing happened, nothing did. She remained as young as before. And even around this particular time though, she had traveled back to her home, to her ancient home. Even there, she was recognized by most of the ponies who lived there. They worshipped her, they not maybe as a worship, but they adore her as an ancient legend, like a local hero. Even there, some stallions had tried to make a move on her, asking her if she would like to go out with them or something, but she said no. She was only there for temporary for staying. But there was something in her mind and in her heart, and that was that she was lonely. She wanted to find some special someone to be with. She wanted to settle down and have a family. But the question is where to live though. Would she go back to her old home to settle down, to have a family? Or would she live in Kendall, the Crystal Empire, where she had her new life? The conflict within her own heart between her old home and Crystal Empire. She tried to ask her friends for some advice, but they all just said, listen to your heart. But then she had no idea what to do. So one day, she went all the way to Pony to ask Twilight for help. But he couldn't help her much about that. Since only Twilight could say that if you like, if you prefer to be somewhere place you most feel more home, then you should be there. That was a good advice she thought. She even went to see Rarity, but she was mostly in fashion designs but she tried to give her the best advice that she could. Home is where you feel home. But that was not much good advice either, but she tried at least. But then, Fluttershy had told her that she should stay where she would feel more comfortable. And since she had been back home, she asked her, did she felt any sort of connection to her old home? And Mistmane has said that she didn't, since all her friends and family were all long gone. She didn't felt any sort of connection to their old home anymore. To her, it felt like a strange place to be at. And then she asked about, what about Crystal Empire? Did you feel more home there? And for the first moment, she was silent. And she said that she felt more home in Crystal Empire in over millennia. There, she had made a lot of new friends, and she felt more home as ever. Even Shining Armor and Cadence had accepted her as part of the royal family, like a long distant sister or cousin, and she accepted it. Even Flurry Heart of all who lives in Crystal Empire adores Miss May. She spends a lot of time with her in the Crystal Garden. They always play, and she listens to Miss May's stories about her adventures with her friends and sort of things. And she just loved to spend time with Flurry Heart. And that she realized Crystal Empire is her true home. But as Miss May were about to leave, Discord appeared. It was supposed to be that he was going to be invited by Fluttershy for the regular tea party. And he was surprised to see that Miss May was there. And even then, Fluttershy asked if she wanted to be maybe staying for a while longer, maybe have some tea with them. And unless Discord didn't mind that. And Discord said that he did mind since he was a good friend of Mistmane now. So Mistmane did mind staying behind. So they had a lot of time to talk. But the rest of the day, Mistmane has somehow recently felt more connected to Discord. She couldn't explain it. She felt warm inside. She felt he was some pony or some creature that she had some sort of connection to. Because he is over a millennia old, and she is about 1 millennia old. There is one thing that they have in common in that. And even they do then spend some time with each other afterwards. And even after that Fluttershy, that Discord had left, Fluttershy had then asked if something was wrong with Miss May. Miss May, at that time, was in her thoughts, but quickly came out of it. And she was just blushing, and then Fluttershy did ask quietly if something was wrong, but Miss May shook her head and said, "No, nothing is wrong," and she left. It did actually take her only a few days when she realized she had fallen in love with Discord, and she had no idea how to tell that to him or either to her friends how they would react. But when they, during one lunch with Cadence Shining Armor, they asked her how she liked her visit some time with Discord and Fluttershy. She said that she had a good time, but then she brought to this the question if Discord is dating Fluttershy. Both Shining Armor and Kiss just looked at each other and said, "Why do you think that?" To they asked. "Well, they spend a lot of time together." Then Shining Armor explained that Discord was just a friend of her, and uh, he could understand that many opponents thought that they were dating, but they weren't. So she asked him if Discord was seeing something. Maybe just he was just a random question. He was just curious. And of course he didn't say much of that. Well, he did seem curious about that most about what she asked that. But he answered her truthfully that he he thought that he was either dating Luna or Celestia. But it turns out nothing of it. But then the same evening in her own room, Miss May, she had no idea how to react or to tell. But she decided to tell at least Cadence by the next day. And when she did that, Cadence said that she had the feeling something was on her mind that when she asked about Discord. But she promised not to tell anyone, which she didn't. But over some time had passed since that. Even Discord sometimes came to Crystal Empire to spend time with Flurryheart, because Flurryheart loved her uncle Discord with his magic and always preferring to cheering her up or just doing some goofy faces or something. Maybe just he somehow became like the babysitter for Flurryheart when Cadence Shining Armor were busy for sometimes. But during that time, when he was babysitting Flurryheart, Miss Main appeared and then she saw him. And when he was spending time with Flurryheart, it made her heart even rushing first faster for each single second. When Flurryheart was having a nap, Discord and Miss Ben just sat together on a balcony with the just have some tea, just small talk. But then Discord asked, "What do you think about Crystal Empire so far?" And she said that she liked it. She felt more home there. Even then, when Flurryheart was still asleep in her bed, Miss May, she'd asked if Discord were interested in some pony in any question. And this question took him off guard, because he has never expected anyone to ask him that. But he looked at the sky and said, "No, at the moment." Many have thought that me and Fluttershy have been dating, but as we all said, we're just two friends. But then she said that she had a crush on some pony in Equestria, and he didn't really actually react much. And oh, who did that be? He asked. He was just curious, but he did not pay much attention to it. And she had no idea. Would she lie to him, or just tell the truth, or just say, but this is some pony she met when she came back home. But she decided to tell the truth. And when she did that, he looked at her with a shocked face and his jaw dropped to the floor. Literally. Wait, let me hear what you said to it again. But are you in love with me? The Lord of Chaos? And he didn't laugh when she said yes. She was really honest about that. And he said that, I understand if you don't like me back same way, Discord. But then before he was about to leave, hey, Mistmane, listen, I understand that you love me, but to be honest, I'm actually willing to give this a try. After all, I have been lonely for millennia, and I understand that you have feelings for me, and I'm willing to give it a try, at least to see if this can work. And how about I take you on a date tonight, after Katie and the Shining Armor came back? Mistmane could not stop feeling her heart was just stopping for a second, and said, yeah, sure. And she went. The same evening, when Shining Armor and Cadence came back home, they explained it, and both were really surprised. But Shining Armor, he was just like, what? For real, Discord? But Cadence, she was just happy and smiled and said, of course, Shining Armor. And you know about this? Well, I knew that Miss Main had a crush on Discord, but on the date, no, I didn't know about that until now. And she was actually true on that. And the same evening, though, both Discord and Miss Maid actually went on a picnic, on a night picnic. And it was actually romantic for both. Seeing the full moon in the sky, the stars, and even that Discord made some fireflies that appeared. And even for Miss May, this was the most perfect night ever in a such long time. Consider that Discord were on something unusual, but in her heart, no matter if Discord was a pony, a dragon, or a griffin, she still loves him. And after that particular day, it came a public knowledge that Discord were dating Miss May. They were expected some questionable about their relationship, but there were a few ponies that just was still a surprise. But to most of their expectation, all ponies in Equestria were accepting it. Because during this particular time, ponies have been dating others. There were a pony that dating a griffin at the time, and a dragon was dating a pony, which was spike and rarity. So to them, this was nothing new. But at least, as long as they were happy, they were happy. But when Fluttershy and the others found out about this, they were so excited. Even Pinky, of all their friends, she threw a big party to just celebrate this. Even at the party, they just saw that how much Miss Main were really happy. She could just stare in Disco's eyes forever. And they even saw how much he smiled when he was being with her. And they knew they were meant for each other. Everything was really going well between them. Until one day. One day, when Discord were with Fluttershy, They went to their regular tea party. They used small talk that is the normal, but around the same time Mistmane were about to leave, were outside the Crystal Empire for some fun small walk. But when suddenly she was unconscious. When she woke up, she was tied up, had a gag so that she couldn't speak, and she saw at least 5 ponies surrounded her. Apparently, she was kidnapped. They thought since she was old hero, she thought maybe that she could be worth a lot of money, at least for a ransom. They sent a message to the Crystal Empire's palace for demanding for 5 million bits for the hero's return. At first, when Cadence and Shining Armor found us, they would try to find her first while sending out some guards, but no luck. When they came to find Discord, at first when they saw Shining Armor with a guard at Fluttershy's cottage, she opened and said, Shining Armor? What are you doing here? Is Discord here? Yeah, he's inside. Then Discord appeared, and he walked up to them and said, Shining, what are you doing here? And what do you bring a Gar? Wait, I am under arrest again? No, Discord, nothing's not like that. But there is something you should know. And after Shining Armor had told him, he was silent. Even Fluttershy looked at them, was curious but most terrified look after she even heard of it. She is kidnapped. That's correct. And they demand 5 million bits. Yeah. Excuse me, he said, and then he snapped his fingers and just puffed away, and they could hear a big scream in the loudness, as they haven't ever heard before. He was screaming that he will find her. He will find her, and when he did, he would do anything to stop the robbers or these kidnappers. The search went for days. But they were just that one thing, though. They had asked Luna if she could use the dream world to find her, but no luck. Apparently, the kidnappers kept Mistmane awake 24/7, all day, all night, because they knew that if Luna was involved, she could have easily find her and easily track the kidnappers down at the instant. So they gave her some sort of medicine, some sort of an herb drink to make her stay awake. And after a week, still no clues where Mistmane were, and now the entire kingdom were in high alert. They had even hired some griffins, who were the master trackers. They even asked dragons in the north, from Dragonlance, that even had asked hippogriffs, and all the kingdoms nearby, if there has any traces, any clues, any information at all. But after almost 2 weeks, nothing had come out. All the traces they found ended up at dead ends or false leads. Discord. He was almost giving up hope to find her alive. But then, one night, one of the three kidnappers made one big mistake which would eventually lead them to find her. Four of the kidnappers was away, but only one left. He was supposed to guard her, but he fell asleep, and during that time, even Mistmane fell asleep. For nearly 2 weeks without any sleep. And at the same time, Luna was in walking in the dream world to helping, but she felt a presence, and she saw Mistmane. She tried to talk to her, and she might have found her at least for location where she were before Mistmane was walking up. It turns out the guard woke up and saw that she was asleep and managed to wake her up. He thought that she was dead, that he was safe, and he did tell this about his friends when they came back. But when Luna told this to Discord and to the royal guards, Discord, he was both happy but at the same time furious, and he teleports before the end of the guards has any chance to leave the castle. And Luna and Celestia, they knew that the kidnappers would be in a great danger, but this was something that they couldn't stop because an angry Andronicus is something you shouldn't want to be around. And they were right. Shortly after that, the Luna and the other guards appeared. All the kidnappers was tied up, hanging from the ceiling, begging for them to be released, and Mistmane was sitting there next to Discord in his arms, hanging, and the kidnappers. They were sentenced to the Tartarus for life for what they tried to do. And even though Discord had promised her never to let her go, and he kept his promise after that. And even after that, Discord decided to take her with him to his home in his dimension, only for a short time, because he wanted to have that she could recover from all this. And he was right. All she needed was some rest, and she was back to him. Even even though that she wanted to be with Discord, she felt scared. But after nearly about 2 months, she was back in Crystal Empire and felt confident to be home. And even toward the first day that she had 3 guards around her all day long, except when she was in her own room, of course. At first, she thought that this was only on for precaution, but as time passed, they still remained by her presence, and she felt so annoyed about this. She had almost no freedom. But Shining Armor insisted this is only temporarily, and he was right. Only a few days later, he didn't need any guards. But Discord, by the way, he appeared in Crystal Empire from time to time more often, only to see that she was happy and that she was safe. And even Keenan's Shining Armor had ensured him that she was safe in the Empire. And after about 2 years after this, all this incident happened, Discord had made a big question to himself to ask. Should he ask her this big question of a proposal to Mistmane? He had asked Fluttershy if he should do that. She had only said, if you feel it is right to ask her, then do it. Listen to your heart and you know the answer. And even Spike, when he had showed the ring to him, are you really going to ask her? Yes, I am, said Discord. Well, I'm hoping for that all go well for him. And he was right, because only a few days after that, he actually took Mistmane to the park in Ponyville for his own walk, and then he asked her, and she said yes immediately. And it didn't take much long, because only a few weeks later, the wedding was held. Even then, Discord had asked Spike to be his best man, and even Mistmane had asked Cadence to be her bridesmaid, and Twilight to be the one to perform the wedding. Even after the wedding, there was a big party that Pinky had organized, and every pony had an amazing time. Even after that late evening, they all could see how happy Discord were with Mistmane, and they all knew they were truly meant for each other. And after that, they went on the honeymoon to a tropical island for about a whole week. And they had this amazing time there, either with just laying on the beach, sunbathing, or just relaxing in the shades, or swimming around in the ocean, just having this amazing time. And even to some point when then, after that, they came back home, they had to talk to each other where to stay though. Should she go back to the Crystal Empire, or moving in with Discord in his own dimension? After some time they had the discussions, they were not much as an argument. They were just thought maybe that was a good idea. But after that, they had talked about it for a couple of days. They had decided that they would live in Discord's dimension. But Miss Vane would go back to the Crystal Empire to do her work, which she did. And everything was just going well between them. She, Miss Vane loved her work, Discord loved his work at the school, and everything was just perfect between them. But then, 4 years later, Miss Vane had told Discord something that she had learned from a doctor in Crystal Empire. And she told him that he was going to be a dad soon. And he was like, "Wait, are you serious?" And she just nodded and told him it was true. He was just like flying up in the air and exploded as a fireworks show. And he said, "I'm going to be a dad! Discord!" And all their friends were just so beyond happy from both. Even Fluttershy. She had been asked to be the baby's godmother, and she accepted right away. And they even later find out they want to have a daughter. And they talked about then what name to name her. But then they had decided this most perfect name for her. And soon the daughter was born. They named the daughter Domino Chaos. Even then, when she was just a young child, she had a lot of energy. But thanks to Discord, he managed to train her chaos powers that showed up when she was about 2 years old. At first, both her parents were worried when her powers would show up. Even while she was growing up, she often spent time in the Crystal Empire, and she became close to Cadence and even Fairyheart, which she considered as her sister or cousin. They spent a lot of time together, but there was just one other pony that she was very close to, and that was her godmom, Fluttershy. And for some reason, Domino Chaos, she had the same ability to talk to animals, and she actually loved animals so much, and her dream to want to be a vet. And she even had a lot of training with Fluttershy how to take care of animals, and she even used her chaos magic to entertain some animals when they were sad or scared or trying to protect them. And after that, she easily had won the animals' confidence that she was friendly and not to be scared of. At first, when she came to Ponyville when she was just about 5, 6 years old, many ponies were a little bit scared about her, but after they found out that she was the daughter of Discord, they quickly learned that she was friendly and accepted her. Because she knew that even Discord realized as they haven't seen her before, and it was a normal reaction, and he wasn't even mad at that, because no pony bullied her when she stayed in Ponyville at her aunt Twilight for some time. Even then, she spent time with Twilight to learn more about magic, at the same time learn more about her father from her own perspective. She knew that her father once was an evil tyrant, or at least an evil villain, but had redeemed himself and once has ever been since. But her biggest dream, though, was to be a vet. And after several years of having been trained by Fluttershy, she applied for medical school, or at least a vet school in Manhattan, which she was accepted to. And after several years of training there and studying, she graduated and she actually stayed in Manhattan, started working for a local vet store. And there, she had found her special son pony, a stallion, who was also a vet. And both of them were so deeply in love, and they actually started working together and even opened a second store which they had to help. Even her presence in Manhattan was really accepted by everybody. She was accepted so much, so she decided to stay in Manhattan. But one day, though, after they had been dating for 4 years, her boyfriend had asked her to marry her, and she said yes immediately. And after they had been married for about 4 years, Domino Chaos announced to her husband that she was pregnant with twin daughters, which he was really surprised. And even though that Discord and Mistmane was told about this, both were so excited. Even Discord, he was beyond happy that he was going to be a grandfather. Even that his own granddaughters also had the same ability as him. But they didn't show their chaos powers until they were about 4 years old, which give they was given Domino Chaos a lot of time to practice to help them to control and handle the powers, and also teaching them never use it ever for bad things. But as long as they use the powers to help others or make some practical jokes, as long as they didn't harm anyone, that was good for them. And that's how Miss May and Discord found a true love and got a family. The end.